So I'm a little bit late to the fantasy football game, but I wanted to get my rankings out to whoever needs them. For this video, I'm going to do one consolidated video including every position, and I'm going to give you my overall thoughts. Before we begin, the rankings I use in this video are all based on a 12-team league with half PPR settings. This team features a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, a kicker, and a defense. Note, I have other rankings available on my Patreon, but I'm going to give you a forewarning that I likely won't make further updates. Nor, unfortunately this year, I can't do custom sheets. I'm really sorry about that for people who want them, but with my new job, I'm just horribly busy and I just don't have time. Alright, so with that out of the way, here's how you read the settings on the screen. You have the player's name, their team, and bye week, and then you have everything else to the right. In order, that's ADP or average draft position, you have RK, which is my ranking of that player, you have diff or difference, which is simply the difference between the ADP and my ranking, which shows us the value of that player. Negative means they're being overdrafted, while positive means the opposite and they're being underdrafted. Finally, you have the max auction value, which is the most I'm willing to spend on that player. This is based on a $200 budget. So with that out of the way, let's talk more about the quarterbacks. Currently, I have 2 players who are worth 2nd and 3rd round picks. Those players are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Both should create a ton of fantasy points. But again, they are very pricey given their average draft positions. Honestly, a lot of the quarterbacks this year fall into this bucket. As much as I like a guy like Justin Herbert, for example, he's being more overdrafted by a solid round in your 12-team league. The same goes for Lamar Jackson too. This is one of those seasons I'll likely roll with a later tier player like a Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts and then pair them with a guy like Trey Lance later on and pick my matchups. Outside of the players I mentioned, I'm not very bullish on many of the other guys. I feel like the quarterback position is always a bit overdrafted and you can simply get more value for your pick by avoiding this position early. The next position I'm going to talk about is the running back. This is a very interesting year for the running back as there seems to be more value in this position than years past. For example, really highly rated guys are slipping further than they should be. As a side note, Alvin Kamara should be viewed with a giant asterisk this season as he's a bit up in the air. Outside of him, Joe Mixon is a guy I really like this season. I think he's going to be excellent as a mid-first round pick. Now in terms of strategy, I'll likely hold off on the running back position until the 2nd or 3rd rounds in favor of one of the premier wide receivers. If you're in an auction league, this means I'm targeting guys like Leonard Fournette and Saquon Barkley as opposed to the Najee Harrises of the world. I also think there's a decent bit of value in the 4th and 5th rounds to steal a guy that falls. With that being said though, another guy I really like this year is Ramonde Stevenson of the Patriots. I think he's going to earn a bigger role in the Patriots offense, and I think he's going to outscore his average draft position. Now, as much as I like a guy like Stevenson, one guy I'm definitely avoiding this year is Antonio Gibson. I do not like how Brian Robinson is already taking carries, and I have a strong feeling that's going to be the case all year. Gibson is a guy that I'm going to avoid and not take that risk. Remember, my strategy is always to build a portfolio-style approach to my team, and I'm going to look for value as opposed to the home runs. With that being said though, there is one running back that without a doubt I'll be targeting later on. That's Damian Pierce of the Houston Texans. He's a guy that I'm 100% going to be looking for in the 8th round or potentially earlier because I think he'll be the starting running back for that team by the end of the season. I created a video on this channel on his skill set and I think he's going to do really well in that scheme. Make sure you check that out. Moving on, let's talk about the wide receivers. This year, like most, there are a ton of wide receivers that need to be considered. Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson are your top tier guys. I'm also still high on Deebo Samuel, even though I do worry that he won't be getting as many carries as he did last year. I think Trey Lance is going to vulture some of those yards. Even with that being said, Samuel seems to be falling further than I expected. So as an early 2nd round pick, I'm more than happy to play with that risk. Outside of him, Devonte Adams is a guy I'm a bit concerned about if I'm going to be honest. I don't think he'll be getting the targets and the volume he was used to with the Packers, so he's a guy I might let somebody else take that risk. As we move down this list, Brandon Cooks is your steal of the mid rounds. Take him in the 4th or 5th round and be happy he lasted this long. Cooks is one of those guys who will always get 1,000+ yards and just about 5 or 6 touchdowns. That's great value in the 4th or 5th. Plus, I like Davis Mills, who's going to bomb the ball to him all day. Now, one thing to note, I feel like guys like Robert Woods and Tyler Lockett and even Darnell Mooney are slipping just a bit too far. These are guys that can still make a ton of plays. Tyler Lockett, for example, he shouldn't be falling this far even with Geno Smith as his quarterback. In terms of later round guys that I'm targeting, I'm looking out for Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers, Allen Lazard of the Packers, and Sky Moore of the Chiefs. Allen Lazard has the potential to be a top target for Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers and Lazard played really well down the stretch, and I like his potential based on where he's being drafted. I also like Sky Moore from the Chiefs. He has a ton of potential to steal some touchdowns and become a value target for Patrick Mahomes. Finally, and to wrap up this video, let's talk about the tight ends. I'll be honest and just say this pretty bluntly. I really don't like the tight end position this year. There are only a few guaranteed starters, and the rest all seem to be flyers. One guy who is falling way lower than he should be right now is Hunter Henry. He should be an 8th round pick, and he's falling past the 13th round. This makes no sense. Another guy I like, but everybody else seems to like, is Zack Ertz. Yes, he's old, but with DeAndre Hopkins being suspended, I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I think he's a lot of potential, especially early on. Finally, the last player that I really like this year is Comet from the Bears. With Jimmy Graham finally off this team, I think Comet is going to have a pretty good season. He's very athletic, and I think Justin Fields will take a nice step forward while targeting him very often. Well, I know this video is pretty quick, and I covered all the positions rather in a hurry. It's weird, but this is one of those seasons where the average draft position of the leagues I've seen all seem to be more in line with my rankings than usual. From a value standpoint, it seems like the mid to late rounds is where we're going to see more upside than normal. This tells me that if you're in an auction league like I am, I'm going to save my money and make sure I have a deep bench full of upside talent. I'll likely hold off on taking high-end players near the top and focus on having a deep bench with players that I grabbed later on. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back with a normal breakdown next week, so thanks again for watching. If you want to find the download links, look in the description for my Patreon account. As well, you can find me on Twitter at SamuelRGold.